7.3 magnitude earthquake rocks Indonesia's Sumatra Island, triggering tsunami warning. Indonesia's geophysics agency, BMKG, reported that a 7.3 magnitude earthquake hit west of Sumatra Island on Tuesday, which triggered a tsunami warning. The European Mediterranean Seismological Center, EMSC, initially reported the quake as 6.9 magnitude. According to the country's meteorological department, the earthquake occurred at a depth of 84 kilometers (52.2 miles) and caused initial tsunami warnings. Evacuation and damage assessment underway. The Disaster Mitigation Agency in Indonesia has already begun data collection from the islands closest to the earthquake's epicenter. Spokesperson Abdul Mahari reported that in Padang, the capital of West Sumatra, the quake was felt strongly and some people moved away from the beaches. Akmal, an official of the Mentawai Islands, off Sumatra, said locals were conducting self-evacuation and heading to higher ground, but there have been no reports of casualties yet. Although the quake was strong, damages were not visible yet, according to Abdul. Indonesia's location on the Pacific Ring of Fire. Indonesia lies on the so-called Pacific Ring of Fire, which is a seismically active zone where different plates of the Earth's crust meet. The earthquake struck at 3:01 a.m. local time on Tuesday, and its epicenter was located in the Indian Ocean, about 30 kilometers south of Tanabala Island or 195 kilometers west of Padang on Sumatra's west coast. The U.S. Geological Survey, USGS, reported that the quake had a magnitude of 7.1 with a depth of 15 kilometers, making it a shallow earthquake. BMKG initially put the magnitude at 7.3 but later revised it to 6.9. Tsunami warning issued and later cancelled. After the earthquake, a tsunami warning was immediately issued, and people living in the nearby coastlines were asked to stay away from beaches. However, the warning was cancelled just before 4 a.m. The head of Indonesia's Earthquake and Tsunami Center, Daryono, reported that a small tsunami had reached Tanabala Island. The USGS estimated that around 2.4 million people across the region could have felt the earthquake, including 30,000 who may have experienced strong to very strong shaking. Indonesia's history of earthquakes. Indonesia has a history of frequent earthquakes since it is located on the Pacific Ring of Fire. One of the most powerful earthquakes ever recorded, a 9.1 magnitude quake, struck off Sumatra's west coast in December 2004. It caused a massive tsunami that hit countries across the Pacific, killing at least 227,898 people. In January, a powerful 7.6 magnitude earthquake struck the Banda Sea near Indonesia and East Timor, damaging hundreds of homes and injuring several people. However, there were no reports of fatalities. The recent earthquake in Indonesia's Sumatra Island has triggered a tsunami warning, and authorities are currently assessing the damage and collecting data from the islands closest to the earthquake's epicenter. While Indonesia has a history of frequent earthquakes, the country's disaster mitigation agencies have become more efficient in responding to natural disasters, such as issuing timely tsunami warnings and evacuations. The earthquake, which struck in the early hours of Tuesday, has triggered a tsunami warning in the western region of Indonesia's Sumatra Island. The quake was initially pegged at 6.9 magnitude by the European Mediterranean Seismological Center, EMSC, but later revised by Indonesia's Geophysics Agency, BMKG, to 7.3 magnitude. The quake occurred at a depth of 84 kilometers and was centered in the Indian Ocean, about 195 kilometers west of Padang on Sumatra's west coast. Indonesia is no stranger to frequent earthquakes, as it straddles the Pacific Ring of Fire, an area where different plates of the Earth's crust meet and cause seismic activity. Following the quake, the country's meteorological department issued an initial tsunami warning, asking residents of the affected area to stay away from shores. The Disaster Mitigation Agency is currently collecting data from the nearest islands to the epicenter to assess any potential damage. According to Abdul Mahari, a spokesperson for Indonesia's disaster mitigation agency, locals from the Mentawai Islands, off Sumatra, are conducting self-evacuation and heading to higher ground. However, there have been no reports of casualties yet. In Padang, the capital of West Sumatra, people felt the strong tremors, and some have moved away from the beaches, said Abdul, who was in Padang at the time. Although the quake was pretty strong here, damages are not visible yet, he said. Despite the magnitude of the earthquake, there were no immediate reports of damage or casualties. However, a small tsunami reached Tanabala Island, according to Daryono, the head of Indonesia's Earthquake and Tsunami Center. An estimated 2.4 million people across the region could have felt Tuesday's earthquake, including 30,000 people who may have felt strong to very strong shaking, as per the U.S. Geological Survey, USGS. Indonesia has experienced some of the most significant earthquakes in history. In December 2004, a massive tsunami caused by a 9.1 magnitude earthquake off Sumatra's west coast hit countries across the Pacific, killing at least 227,898 people. Similarly, a powerful 7.6 magnitude earthquake struck the Banda Sea near Indonesia and East Timor in January, damaging hundreds of homes and injuring several people. Indonesia is located on the Pacific Ring of Fire, an arc of fault lines encircling the Pacific Basin that is prone to frequent and large earthquakes. The country remains vigilant to such seismic events, regularly conducting drills and taking precautionary measures to minimize the risk of casualties and damage. While this latest quake has triggered a tsunami warning, authorities are urging residents to stay calm and follow safety procedures until further notice. Indonesia's frequent earthquakes call for preparedness. Indonesia's location on the Pacific Ring of Fire has made it susceptible to frequent and large earthquakes. While the country has put in place measures to minimize the impact of these seismic events, it remains vulnerable to their aftermath. In light of this latest earthquake, authorities are urging residents to remain vigilant and follow safety procedures. Indonesia's disaster mitigation agency is collecting data from the nearest islands to the epicenter to assess any potential damage. While there have been no immediate reports of casualties or damage, the earthquake's magnitude has prompted a tsunami warning in the region. The USGS estimates that around 2.4 million people in the area could have felt the earthquake, including 30,000 who may have felt strong to very strong shaking. Indonesia has experienced some of the most significant earthquakes in history, including the devastating 2004 earthquake and tsunami that killed over. Indonesia is known for its frequent earthquakes, and the country has been working to improve its disaster response and preparedness efforts. In September 2018, a magnitude 7.5 earthquake and subsequent tsunami hit the Indonesian island of Sulawesi, killing more than 4,300 people and leaving thousands more injured or homeless. In the wake of the 2018 disaster, the Indonesian government has taken steps to improve its early warning systems, evacuation protocols, and other disaster preparedness measures. Despite these efforts, however, the country remains vulnerable to earthquakes and other natural disasters. As of now, there have been no reports of major damage or casualties from Tuesday's earthquake. The fact that the quake occurred at a depth of 84 kilometers likely helped to minimize its impact on the surrounding areas. However, officials are continuing to assess the situation and collect data from the affected regions. The earthquake and tsunami warnings serve as a reminder of the ongoing risk posed by natural disasters in Indonesia and the need for continued efforts to improve disaster preparedness and response. While the country has made progress in this area, more work remains to be done to ensure the safety and well-being of its citizens in the face of future disasters. Please like and subscribe for the latest news.